Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. A bill that would ban trans girls from competing in girls' sports has passed the Indiana House and is making its way through the Senate.
Laws like this, just even being proposed, cause trans kids to stay in the closet.
Opponents of the bill say it addresses an issue that doesn't exist. Wood stoves and fireplaces can be used to heat homes and provide a cozy atmosphere in the cold winter months, but the smoke and ash produced can be dangerous.
It goes really straight into your lungs and it lodges deeper there, and sometimes it can actually go through and then enter into your bloodstream, enter into places that you don't want it.
And graduate student workers at IU continue their fight to unionize, despite already being denied a formal vote to do so by the university. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Senate lawmakers approved sweeping changes to a controversial school curriculum bill Wednesday. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Jeannie Lindsay reports many Hoosiers testified they appreciate the effort but still have concerns.
The bill no longer requires that teachers post classroom materials online before an annual deadline or that schools create parent-led curriculum committees. It also reworks a section limiting the promotion of divisive concepts along the lines of race, ethnicity, and religion.
Parents want to be involved in their child's education, and so that's what the purpose of the bill is, to create a path so parents can be involved in their child's education.
Many say they still can't support the bill because it requires parent consent for ongoing student mental health support. Lindsay Paisley, a student at Purdue Polytechnic High School, is one of them.
The very same parents that need to give written consent could be the very root of the issue.
The bill also no longer includes an avenue for parents to file lawsuits against schools for violations of the legislation. The committee plans to vote on it next week. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Jeannie Lindsay.
We're joined now by Steve Hennefeld, a former newspaper reporter who writes about Indiana education at School Matters. Welcome to the show, Steve. Always nice to have you here. So the Senate Education Committee has removed many of the controversial points, House Bill 1134. There's still concerns. What are those?
I think that there's concern that the bill is still somewhat restrictive. They really made it a whole lot better. They got rid of a lot of the really objectionable material in it. But there's still some hoops that schools have to jump through in order to provide counseling services to students. There's still a list of divisive concepts that the schools are discouraged from talking about or dealing with. Certainly it says they're not supposed to promote it, but that will spill over into saying that they shouldn't be talking about it. And then fundamentally, I think it sort of sends a message that teachers in schools aren't to be trusted, and that parents and teachers are adversaries rather than being on the same team.
You know, another topic of concern, not only for parents in Indiana, but around the country, is teaching critical race theory. But that's not being taught in grades K through 12 here, right?
Yeah, critical race theory is a kind of a high-level theoretical approach to understanding race and institutions that would typically be taught in law schools or maybe high-level graduate courses. You might encounter it, I suppose, in an advanced political science or high school history course or something like that. But it's become the term has become a shorthand for discussions that might make people uncomfortable, having to do with race in society or race in American history, the impact of slavery and Jim Crow and and so on. So this has been sort of an organized campaign to, cast doubt on those topics by labeling everything as critical race theory.
There were also attempts in legislation to make school board elections partisan, although those are dead right now. How do we get to this point of having political affiliation mattering in schools?
That's a really good question, I think. I mean, I think we saw, some very highly publicized, very vocal kind of outcries at school board meetings where people were showing up objecting to mask policies, objecting to curriculum, and that kind of thing. And it became identified with Republican and Democratic politics. And I think Republicans, the supermajority, saw this as a way to gain support politically by politicizing school board elections. Those bills died, did not go anywhere.
We just under 30 seconds. Any other legislation you're watching?
Yeah, there's been a lot going on. I mean, there's a bill that's passed out of the House. I'm not sure if it's going to advance in the Senate that requires public schools to share referendum funds with charter schools. That's a controversial idea that hasn't gotten a lot of attention in this session because of all the other things going on. And of course, the legislation that would ban trans girls from competing in girls' sports.
Steve, I'm sorry, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you, Joe.
The Indiana Senate is set to vote on a bill that would prohibit transgender girls from participating in school sports. Advocates for the bill say it ensures biologically female athletes get a level playing field. But LGBTQ activists say the bill addresses a problem that doesn't exist. Mitch Legan reports.
The gym at Childs Elementary in Bloomington is full of life Wednesday nights. 9 and 10-year-olds pack the gym for the school's volleyball camp. School sports don't start until 7th grade for Monroe County students, but the camp provides an opportunity for kids to learn the game and practice their skills. It's Kieran Clausen's favorite time of the week.
You can interact with your friends. It's like super duper fun.
Kieran has dreams of playing for her school team once she's old enough, but recent discussions at the State House have put that dream in jeopardy.
And when trans kids are under attack, what do we do?
The General Assembly has spent the last month discussing House Bill 1041, which would prohibit transgender girls from participating in school sports for girls. That means kids like Kieran would be left on the sidelines. She joined her parents at the State House to speak out against the bill.
I mean, she exists as a girl all day long. And to be told that she is not a girl when it comes to sports it doesn't make sense to me.
I do this thing called the Happy Me Journal, but we did but it said, "What have you learned today?" I said, "Sometimes grown-ups can be stupid."
The ACLU of Indiana has come out against the bill, saying it tells trans kids they don't belong and shouldn't have the same opportunities as others. The group intends to file a lawsuit against the state if it becomes law.
It is the first one in all of this time that has really managed to make it this far, which shows the increasing appetite that lawmakers have to engage in this kind of discrimination.
The bill would apply to K-12 public schools and some private schools, and it wouldn't prohibit trans boys from participating in boys' sports. Representative Michelle Davis is sponsoring the bill. She declined an interview for this story, but says it's about maintaining fairness in girls' sports.
When you have biological males that are stronger, faster, quicker, beginning to play against biological females, then sooner or later, the biological females will not make the team. They won't have the same opportunities.
Davis says she's been contacted by many student athletes and parents about the possibility of having to compete against biological males. They say it's unfair and could keep them from getting scholarships.
Brothers with 21. Becky with 16. Three-pointer, good.
Olivia Santiago.
But if you ask the Indiana High School Athletic Association, it hasn't been an issue. In the decade plus, they've had a transgender participation policy.
The association has not received an application for a biological male to participate as a female. It certainly could happen any day, but as of now, we have not received an application that would be ruled upon.
Under the current policy, Transgender girls can apply for a waiver to participate in girls' sports. They need to show they've gotten hormone treatments for at least a year and undergo a physical that shows their bone structure and muscle mass are consistent with other girls their age. Kieran's parents want her to have that opportunity, not to be a champion volleyball player, but to get that experience of being on a team and being accepted for who she is.
The relationships that you build with your friends while you're going for that common goal is just so important. What that does to a kid and teaches them how to prioritize and balance and things like that, those are things that I don't want my daughter to miss out on.
1041 is one of a handful of bills the legislature is discussing that deal with transgender rights. Malone says that fixation on transgender issues takes a huge toll on the mental health of trans people and pushes many to stay in the closet. Studies show more than half of trans youth considered killing themselves in 2020.
85% of trans children report that this constant atmosphere of political threat is having a negative impact on their mental health. And we're talking about a population of kids that have an extraordinarily high suicide rate. So this is really, really troubling.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.
The bill passed the Senate Education Committee and now heads to the full Senate. If 1041 passes, Indiana would become the 11th state to ban transgender girls from girls' sports. We're now joined by Holden Absher for a look now at the latest headlines. Hi, Holden.
Thanks, Joe. Monroe County's Board of Health plans to let the local mask mandate expire with Governor Eric Holcomb's emergency order on March 4th. The order is already set to expire if the county reaches a blue advisory level on the state's COVID-19 dashboard. It is also set to expire if there is no statewide emergency order. Board member Mark Norell says the high transmissibility of the Omicron variant has thrown off the state's metrics.
I can envision that under the Omicron that maybe we would never achieve, that never see a blue again.
The board's next meeting is scheduled for March 3rd, one day before the governor's emergency order is set to expire. Indiana graduate student workers continue efforts to unionize despite university administration rejecting a request to hold a formal election. Benta Boutier reports.
Associate Professor of Labor Studies at IUPUI, Joseph Varga, says efforts by IU graduate student workers are happening at the right time.
The graduate workers are doing this at a time when there is a kind of heightened sense of workers and their rights within the workplace.
IU policy currently recognizes some staff unions, but says graduate workers are primarily students and get benefits beyond stipends, such as healthcare, tuition remission, and grants. Varga disagrees.
I don't know what any other definition of a worker could be. When you produce for another entity or institution and they reward you with remuneration, you're a worker.
On Tuesday, graduate workers staged a work-in at Franklin Hall that was meant to show the types of work that graduate student workers do.
We're highlighting just the very fact that graduate workers work. They perform labor for the university, and that is one of their primary statuses here at IU.
Vargas says if IU graduate workers were recognized as a union, it would be the first within a public institution of higher education in the state of Indiana. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Benta Boutier.
Monroe County's Democratic Black Caucus is looking into the possibility of reparations. The caucus held its annual State of the Black Community address this week. Members of the caucus's reparations committee shared findings on how racism has impacted the county's black community and how other cities have enacted their own reparations programs.
They started out just like we are right here, just having the conversation. And they eventually were able to persuade the city government.
Committee members say they'll continue their research on the topic in hopes of bringing their findings to city officials. A strain of avian flu has been found at a turkey farm in Greene County. It is the third case of an outbreak at a turkey farm in southern Indiana this month. The other two farms are in neighboring Du Bois County, where more than 55,000 turkeys have been euthanized to prevent the spread of the virus. Officials are taking actions, fearing a repeat of a bird flu outbreak in 2015 that killed 15 million birds in 15 states. A new exhibit is on display at the Monroe County History Center, detailing the lives of Bill and Gail Cook and their work to restore many of the county's most iconic buildings. Callie Lichter has this report.
Together, Gail Cook and her late husband Bill restored several areas in Monroe County and around Indiana, from the Fountain Square Mall to the Monroe County Courthouse. The exhibit, Preserving History, the Legacy of Gail and Bill Cook, explores sites around Monroe County and some bigger restoration efforts such as the resorts in French Lick and West Baden. History Center Director Daniel Schlegel says the purpose of the exhibit is to expose more of the Bloomington community to the Cooks' extensive preservation efforts.
That's what we really want, is for people to show up to this exhibit and be, oh, I knew the Cooks did that. I didn't realize the extent to which they helped save or preserve stuff.
Even the History Center was one of the Cooks' restoration projects. The center used to be the Carnegie Library until it was retired in the 1970s and given to the Bloomington City Redevelopment Commission for Restoration. Schlegel wants the exhibit to show the Cooks how much their efforts mean to the community.
Unfortunately, since Bill has passed on and Gail is getting up there in age, we wanted to make sure that she knew how much we appreciate how much they have done. They've done so much for this community and across Indiana.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Callie Lichter.
That's all the time we have for headlines. Back to you, Joe.
I'll have to check that out. Thanks, Holden. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Wood-burning stoves and fireplaces are good for heating homes and creating a cozy atmosphere, but can have dangerous side effects. And efforts to finish renovation of a century-old theater in Vincennes are being hampered by nationwide supply shortages. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Wake up.
Wake up to the world.
To the marvels, the mayhem,
the music.
Wake up to the wows, the woes,
the wonder.
Wake up to the commotion, to the beauty,
to the humanity,
to the hope. Wake up every morning, fully awake.
NPR Morning Edition.
Tune in to your local station or download the NPR app.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. A Purdue police officer is on leave after a cell phone video shows him forcefully restraining a student. The video shows Officer John Selke lying on top of his student, Adonis Tuggle, and putting his elbow over Tuggle's throat. Tuggle's girlfriend, who recorded the video, can be heard telling the officer to get his elbow off my boyfriend's neck. In their initial statement on the event, Purdue police said Selke was responding to a call about a woman being held against her will. Now we're joined by Indiana Public Broadcasting's Ben Thorpe, who's been covering this story. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much.
So how is Purdue responding to the incident? They've opened an investigation. What's new?
That's right. So, initially they said that they were just going to do an internal investigation. They say that's pretty standard anytime that there's a police use of force. But on Thursday, Purdue President Mitch Daniels said that there would be a independent investigation done by the Indiana State Police. After they made that call, the Tippecanoe County Prosecutor's Office has also called for an independent investigation. And as you mentioned, Officer Selke has been placed on administrative leave, although Purdue police say that is because of death threats that they've received in relation to the video surfacing.
What are we hearing now from Adonis's attorneys?
Attorneys for Adonis say that this is a pretty clear case of excessive force. They're calling for charges against Adonis to be dropped, and they want to see the body cam footage from Officer Selke released. They want to sit down with Purdue President Mitch Daniels and talk about how things like this can be prevented in the future. They didn't say that they are going to file suit, however. They say they want to see that body cam footage before making a decision about how to proceed.
And one more quick question. What's the mood there on campus? What are students there saying about what happened?
I attended a town hall last Thursday put on by Purdue's Black Student Union, and students say that they are not feeling safe on campus when they see a video like that. They're in the midst of developing demands that they plan to submit to the university. I heard a number of things, including that they want to see social workers respond to calls like this one, or more training for Purdue police.
All right, Ben, something we'll continue to count on your coverage for. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Many people use wood stoves or fireplaces to heat their home, some because they enjoy the atmosphere fire creates, some to save on heating costs. But there are potential health impacts from breathing wood smoke. Sarah Vaughn has the story.
So you can see it's dried season for at least a year, and in it goes.
Brian Garvey has been using a wood stove to heat his pre-Civil War home in Monroe County for 40 years. His fuel comes from his own 185 acres of forested land.
Most of this wood is ash. We've had a lot of ash trees die because of the emerald ash borer. And so the majority of you're seeing here is ash that's already been down or I took down standing dead.
Garvey seasons the wood himself, drying it for at least a year because dry wood burns more efficiently. He says looking at and feeding a fire all winter long provides him with a certain connectedness, in the same way growing your own food connects you to a meal.
You close it down to slow the oxidation for less air to keep it from burning real hot.
But burning anything sets off combustion, creating particulate pollution finer than the finest hair on your head.
It goes really straight into your lungs and it lodges deeper there. And sometimes it can actually go through and then enter into your bloodstream, enter into places that you don't want it.
Commodore says it's a combination of particulates and gases that makes up the threat.
And then sometimes you can have some of the particles like lodging together to become another particle because they just happen to react together and form something new that didn't even come out from that product.
Threats such as volatile organic compounds, VOCs, and hydrocarbons containing benzene, which is a carcinogen. Commodore says repeated exposure creates what's referred to as insults to the cells, and eventually the body simply can't repair the damage anymore. Dr. Maylon Hahn says there is data suggesting exposure to wood-burning stoves is harmful to the lungs and may be associated with the common chronic lung condition, COPD.
And while people typically think about it as being related to tobacco smoke, in actuality, about a quarter of people who have COPD never smoked. And so we think those individuals, there's probably a huge combination of factors that contribute, but other environmental and noxious exposures are likely a significant contributor.
And exposure when young leads to unhealthy outcomes.
There is a lot of data that just pollution is bad. Pollution, just straight up, pollution in pregnancy is bad. It's associated with worse infant outcomes.
Hahn points to research indicating children exposed to ultrafine particulate matter not only are at increased risk for bronchitis and pneumonia, but can also develop defects. Hahn says our lungs continue to develop until about age 25. So depending on when and how long the cellular insults occur, they might impede lung development, or in adults, speed lung decline. As he enjoys the warmth of his homegrown fire, Garvey says to his knowledge, his family's health hasn't been negatively impacted by wood smoke. But he took steps to guard against indoor air pollution when setting up his wood stove. To start, he made sure it had a baffle.
And what that does is help oxidize volatile gases. Another way is to have obviously clean chimneys, tile-lined and/or stainless piping. Another is to have a good draw on your chimney. So you're pulling air, good strong pull of air, because you don't want smoke rolling back when you open the door.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Sarah Vaughn.
The Environmental Protection Agency's mandatory smoke emission limit for wood stoves is 2 grams of smoke per hour. You can find an explanation of the emission limit and guidance for choosing an EPA-certified wood heater at epa.gov. Well, in the 1950s and 60s, the Pantheon Theater in Vincennes hosted a number of stage legends. Now the present co-op space is trying to restore the theater to its former glory, but has run into supply chain issues. Callie Lichter reports.
In October 2020, the Pantheon Theater received a $732,000 grant from the Department of Commerce to renovate the exterior. Now, nearly a year and a half later, restorations have come to a halt. The 101-year-old building needed a lot of work after sitting vacant for decades. President and CEO of the Pantheon, Nicole Like, has been spearheading the renovations.
So that's been an ongoing exterior renovation, everything from tuck pointing the brick, new gutters, new windows, new exterior doors.
But due to supply chain issues that have rocked the nation, the finishing touches to the exterior have been pushed back.
So what we're waiting on mainly right now are some of the windows that are needing to be replaced in the second story of the building, and then also our marquee.
The Economic Development Administration, part of the Department of Commerce, granted an extension from March until June to finish the restorations.
As of now, I'm going to hold out hope that we will be done by the end of June. I haven't heard otherwise on that.
The Pantheon is where comedian Red Skelton got his start, and in its heyday hosted big names such as Duke Ellington, Hank Williams, and the Marx Brothers. Returning the building's exterior to its former glory is the goal. The new marquee will be the final installation, but shortages on LED lights and other materials will push the delivery until later this spring.
And that's going to be really the icing on the cake. Everybody's excited about that. That's going to make this building look like a theater again.
Like is optimistic that the supplies will be delivered on time. Until then, the theater remains open inside for businesses and the community as a business incubator. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Callie Lichter.
That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.